Guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maria and this is It's Cozy But Complicated. And this is my little corner of the internet where I take Hallmark movies way too seriously. And this weekend I watched A Castle of Our Own starring Brennan Elliott and Erica Serra. This movie is the fourth and last installment of Hallmark's Summer Nights series before we jump into Christmas in July. Now, I just want to talk about this movie because I really enjoyed it. It was a fun watch. So let's just get into it. So we open with Marley. Marley is an overworked strip mall architect. And that has got to be one of the most boring jobs. I mean, for someone that's an architect. Because I would think an architect, you do have a creative thread going through your talents, your skills. And designing strip malls seems like it's something that is very mundane and kind of cookie cutter. But yeah, so she's an architect and her life seems to be one long deadline. She's divorced, raising a teenage daughter, and constantly promising the daughter that they're going to take their dream trip to Paris so the daughter can more explore her passion for art. But every time the opportunity comes up, Marley lets work get in the way. And she's not just busy. Marley is stuck in survival mode. And then there's Adam. Adam is a contractor living in Cannon Cove, and he rebuilds houses and he's trying to rebuild his life. He's still reeling from a recent separation from his wife, and he's pouring all of his energy into the house that they had purchased and they were going to live in it together, but he's making reservations and he's just kind of stuck in this renovation phase. He's quietly nursing a broken heart. And his work seems to give everyone else a fresh start, but he just can't figure out how to give himself that fresh start. Right from the beginning, both characters are exhausted. And I know I've said in many of my previous videos that Hallmark, that's how they usually start out with the characters. Somebody is tired. Somebody is exhausted from work. Marley is buried under her work. She's trying to dig herself out. Adam is grieving the end of his marriage and he can't seem to move forward. And the movie could have leaned into the angst of that, but instead it chose gentleness. And I love that. It chose gentleness, and that calm tone is established from the opening scenes and it carries throughout the movie. That becomes one of the movie's biggest strengths. All right, guys, so we're going to do a quick rundown of A Castle of Our Own. I do have my notes here, y'all. I told you I script out a lot of things, but this is just to keep me on track and keep all the details together. So we have Marley. Marley reluctantly takes her teenage daughter, Lily, on a summer vacation to Cannon Cove after her dad, Lily's dad, Dan, he has to cancel, y'all, because he has a last minute deal, this big Singapore deal that he has to close. And even though Marley's own boss, you know, the boss is like, you can go on this vacation. I really wish you wouldn't because, you know, we got this big strip mall project coming up and the developers, they only want to work with you because you're the best. You know, she's like, go ahead and go on the trip, but I need you to keep your phone and your computer handy. Marley says, okay, but she's determined to spend a lot of uninterrupted time with her daughter, but still give her boss what she is requesting as well. Now, Lily understands that when it comes to her mom, and even I guess maybe even her dad, work comes first, unfortunately. And she's getting tired, though. She's getting tired of waiting to go to Paris. Her dream, like I said, is to visit Paris and just immerse herself into the city's art scene. And, you know, although Marley keeps promising we're going to go one day soon, Lily is starting to lose hope. Now, when Marley and Lily arrive in the charming little seaside town of Cannon Cove, now I keep wanting to call this Canyon Cove. I don't know why I want to call it Canyon Cove. It seems like that's what it should be. But anyways, Cannon Cove, they immediately meet their neighbor, Adam, who is renovating the house next door, which happens to be his house. And at first, Marley mistakes him for a plumber when she has a plumbing issue when they first arrive. She thinks he's the plumber, but instead of correcting her, Adam just goes in and he fixes the problem and then he introduces himself. But while he's working, Marley notices that his phone keeps buzzing nonstop, and he has 34 and counting unread text messages. And Adam explains to her, like, I'm just living in the moment. I'm not going to be, you know, stuck answering phone calls all the time. That's not what I'm going to do. Now, Adam is a contractor. He's an independent contractor. So whose calls are you ignoring? 34 and county? Whose calls are you ignoring? Are you ignoring clients or customer calls? Calls from suppliers? Maybe it's new business. Somebody is calling because they want to hire you. Like, whose calls are you ignoring? Because we never really see him on the phone throughout the movie. Now, there have been a couple of offers to buy his home as is. So he's saying that he keeps getting lowball offers, but it's really just him kind of stuck in this cycle, not wanting to give the home up. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. But Marley, she kind of jokes that, she couldn't imagine not answering her text messages or not answering her phone calls. She jokes that if she ignored all of that, she would lose her job. But their exchange perfectly captures the contrast between them. Adam is learning how to slow down while Marley is trapped by the demands of work. It's also the first glimpse, the first spark we see between them, really with Marley, because as he's walking away, she's looking at him like, ooh, she kind of twirls her hair. She's just like, you can tell she finds him attractive. And as we go on, Marley learns that Adam is recovering from a recent separation, and he's trying to figure out what comes next. They quickly connect, and together with Lily and Adam's niece, Paige, they enter the town's annual sandcastle competition. And while they don't win the competition, building sandcastles helps them build something more important. It helps them build a friendship that eventually turns into a romance. And Marley and Adam, they grow closer through conversations about work and about building the life that they want. Marley wants to leave her current job designing strip malls and follow her dream of designing houses. She's done it before. She even has a website. And there's a scene where she meets a lady in town who was one of her first clients. And she was surprised that Marley is not doing that anymore. Marley's like, yeah, I'm designing strip malls now. It was just, more stability. And the lady tells her, we love our house and we're never selling it because we just love the design so well. I have people, colleagues, I have people in my circle that would really love to hire you and work with you. And this makes, Marley even more, it drives her more toward quitting her job. Which she eventually does. She eventually does quit her job. But before that, her boss is just constantly calling, constantly texting. And Adam, he playfully threatens to throw her phone into the ocean if her boss doesn't stop calling. But, Marley is like, yeah, I know, please don't throw my phone into the water, but I'm going to do my best to stay in the moment. And she does. She does a really good job of staying in the moment during the day when it comes to her daughter. And when it comes to Adam, she is doing a good job of ignoring her boss. Now, when Dan and his wife finally get to, I don't even know that lady's name, but when Dan and his wife finally get to Cannon Cove to join Marley and Lily, they meet Adam, and Dan realizes that Adam really does like Marley, and Marley really does like Adam, but the one thing that is keeping them apart is the distance. I think Marley and Lily and Dan live in Seattle, and Cannon Cove is in Oregon. I know they said it was a 5-hour drive. So there's a distance. So when we get to the end of the movie, when Marley has to pack up and go back home, she's sad that she has to leave Adam. Adam is sad that she has to leave. So Dan comes in to save the day. Now, before that, Marley tells Dan that, hey, I quit my job. And he's happy for her. He's like, great. She's like, I want to go back to designing residential properties. And he's like, great. You were such a good wife to me when we were married. You're a good mother. You were very supportive of me when I started my business. And yeah, I want to give back to you. So you own 25%, of the business. I want to buy you out just half of it. Because at first she was like, no, wait, no. He's like, I just want to buy you out just half of it. And with this Singapore deal closing, the business is worth a lot of money. So even at 12.5%, you're going to get a lot of money if I buy you out. And this will give you enough money and enough time to start your own business. Now, I thought he should have said this will give you enough money and enough time to take our daughter to Paris. But they didn't say, neither one of them mentioned going to Paris, taking the daughter to Paris. It's still about more work. But anyway, he also gives Adam an opportunity that would bring him to Seattle, and it works. Everything, it's a perfect ending. Like I said, she's going to get the money and the time to start a new business, and Adam is going to have work opportunities to where he can relocate or maybe visit Seattle more often and be closer to Marley. And they kiss. It was a really nice kiss, but it wasn't the first time. They kissed at one other point in the movie, but the kiss seemed really, really natural. And yeah, it was good. It was good. All right, guys. So that was just a little quick summary of the movie. We had some other side characters that really added to the film and, made the story even more entertaining. We have Barbara Pollard. She played Mayor Betty Finch, and she was the enthusiastic mayor of Cannon Cove and the organizer, I guess you could say, or the facilitator of the annual sandcastle competition. And then we had Paige. She was Adam's niece and Lily's new summertime friend. Now, we had some MVPs of this movie. 2 MVPs that I want to call out. It was Dan and Sadie. Sadie is Adam's sister and Paige's mom. She's also a big cheerleader for Dan. She encourages him to stop dwelling on the past, make a move with Marley, finish renovating that house or sell it, do something with it, and get on with your life. And she was one of the organizers of the Cannon Cove annual sandcastle building contest. And she is the one that gets Marley and Lily and Adam and Paige. She gets them all involved. And it brings all of them closer together. So I liked Sadie. And then, I'm saying Dan. Dan is an MVP because he provided support to Marley to start her own business, and he provided Adam with an opportunity that would give him work and bring he and Marley closer together. So yeah. So guys, right off the bat, what I want to talk about is what did not work for me. My biggest issue with the Castle of Our Own, it wasn't the romance, but it was the movie's relationship with work. It bothered me, okay? So we have Marley. She's already drowning as an architect working for a firm designing strip malls. Y'all, I rode past a strip mall this morning. I thought about this movie. This was an abandoned strip mall, and it was just sitting there kind of deteriorating, decaying. I was like, it just seems like it's such a, I don't know, designing strip malls just wouldn't, it seemed like it could drain your soul and give you nothing back in return. I don't know. That's just kind of what I was thinking this morning when I rode past one. I thought of Marley, y'all. I thought of Marley. But anyway, like I said, she works at a firm as an architect designing strip malls, but her dream is to leave and start her own residential design business. And when she tells her boss this, the boss is like, if you think you're busy now, being an entrepreneur is going to suck up even more of your life. Even more of your life. And it's an interesting conversation, but I was left wondering if Marley was making the right decision. Because I'm like, does she really need to start a new business, or does she need to create better boundaries when it comes to work? Because I feel like if she had better work-life balance at the firm, maybe she wouldn't have quit. Because like she said in the movie, the job provides a good salary, it provides financial stability, and she's good at it. She's celebrated at the job as being one of the best. And I didn't also, after she told the boss she's going to be quitting the job, the boss was like, okay, I'll see you Monday morning. Like, it didn't stop. But even though she was celebrated as being one of the best architects at the firm, what did it get her? It didn't get her any time off from work to take a vacation. It didn't get her any rest. It didn't give her any balance. The only thing it gave her was more work, just more work. And that theme kind of carries over to her relationship with her daughter, Lily. Lily offers to get a job. Like, I will get a job and I will help pay for the trip to Paris. Let's just go already. Let's just go. But money was never an issue here in this movie. Lily's father, he seems to be financially successful. Marley appears to be financially stable. And the issue to me, it was time. It wasn't money, it was time. And I found that to be more heartbreaking because you have a mother who desperately wants to make memories with her daughter and take her on this trip, but she keeps postponing everything because work always comes first. That was so heartbreaking. And then going back to Marley's boss, this is something else that I just did not like in the movie. So Marley's boss, she became frustrating to me because she kept calling, kept texting throughout the vacation, fully aware that Marley was supposed to be spending this quality time with her daughter. And even worse, the film never calls her out on it, or has her apologize to Marley. Even after the fact, she never apologized. And it felt like the movie was expecting us to just accept this type of behavior as normal workplace behavior, and when it really shouldn't be. I'm getting hot, so I had to turn my fan on. But there were some other, other story elements that kind of never quite paid off for me. Adam repeatedly kept showing up with fish for Marley to cook. And at first I was like, why does he keep showing up with this fish? Now, he did mention his brother-in-law or somebody went to the doctor and they had to change their eating habits, so they eat fish now and they keep giving him fish. But then he couldn't cook it because he's renovating his house and he doesn't have a kitchen. So he brings it over to Marley. I remember him asking her, do you like fish? And she was like, what kind of question is that? And she was like, yeah, I like fish. So he kept bringing fish over. But I guess it was kind of like a gag, like a reoccurring gag, but it just never really went anywhere. And then likewise, the rivalry between Adam and the reigning sandcastle building champion Gordo. Now that seemed like it was setting up to be kind of like a little fun competitive subplot, but they didn't do anything with it because actually Gordo and Adam's ex-wife used to date. And Gordo was upset because she chose to marry Adam instead of him. So he was kind of gloating in the downfall of their marriage. And he wanted to win the competition, another way to kind of upstage Adam. But they never really, delved into that storyline. So I was like, it just kind of faded off into the background. One thing I thought was especially interesting and very cozy but complicated in this movie is the point about time versus money. Hallmark movies often frame problems as financial, but this one accidentally stumbled into a more modern reality. Marley has enough money. She had more than enough money. Her ex-husband had enough money. And it seems like Adam had enough money. But what she didn't have was time, and what she didn't have was freedom from work. And she never gave herself freedom from work. She quit her job only to go into starting a new business. It wasn't like I quit my job so I can rest and spend some time with my daughter and travel with my daughter. No, she just jumped from one frying pan into another one. And I don't know. I just really didn't like that. But I feel like this, was a much more relatable conflict for the audience, and I wish the film had leaned into that a little bit more instead of making it about money. So now I'm going to go into the things that I really did enjoy about the movie. I feel like this was one of the rare Hallmark movies that proved that romance doesn't need to be forced or manufactured to keep you interested. There was no unnecessary third act breakup, no frustrating misunderstanding, and they didn't even have one of those almost kisses. I hate those scenes. They kissed when they were supposed to kiss. They did it more than once. I enjoyed it. Nobody interrupted them. But instead, the movie gave us two emotionally mature adults who communicated, who respected each other, and who slowly fell in love. It was refreshing. Like this air blowing on me now. It's refreshing. The chemistry between Brennan Elliott and Erica Cera carried the story beautifully. Brennan's return to Hallmark felt like a welcome homecoming. You guys know that he took some time off, I think, after his wife passed away. And this is his first movie back. So welcome back to Brennan. And together, they made the romance feel believable instead of rushed. Adam is full of affirmations and wisdom, and he's just full of positivity. And I did enjoy that. I don't know why. Now, I thought they said in the movie he was a therapist. That may have been a joke, but I was like, oh, he's a therapist and a contractor. But they never mentioned the therapist role ever again, so I think that was a joke. But I could see him being a therapist. He was just such a positive person, and he had an answer for every situation. So I don't know. And I thought the sandcastle competition was a fun little backdrop. It gave the movie, a personality. Well, it gave the story more personality without, taking away from the romance. I think, y'all, one of my favorite surprises about this movie is how calm I felt while watching it. My nervous system was at rest. There was no part of the movie where I got anxious because, oh my God, they're going to have a big misunderstanding. Oh my God, somebody's going to come in and say something, and there's going to be, somebody gets mad, and, it's going to set the movie back. It's going to set the relationship back. There was none of that. So I really did enjoy that aspect of the movie. And like I said, this is sometimes I want the Hallmark movies to be like this. They have their tropes and everything, but sometimes I just give me something easy that I can just sit and be calm and watch. I also appreciated the supporting characters. The daughter, she wasn't written as an annoying teenage obstacle. And the ex-husband, Dan was kind, he was supportive, and he was refreshingly drama-free. There was no drama. So it was nice to see a divorced family portrayed with maturity instead of conflict. Definitely. So guys, my final thoughts. My final thoughts on A Castle of Our Own is that this was a gentle, mature love story. There was no formulaic third act breakup. There were the traditional Hallmark tropes. It was just like, if you just want just a nice romantic movie that simply lets two good people find each other and fall in love, then this one is one you want to watch. I give this movie a 4.75 out of 5. It was absolutely great. So that's it. That's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. I want you to stay tuned for my next video because I'm going to be talking about, I'm just going to kind of give a wrap up of the Summer Nights lineup and tell you what my favorite movies were from the lineup and which one was the absolute worst movie. Stay tuned for that video, guys. It's going to be a short one, but I hope you'll come back and watch it. I hope you leave me a nice comment down below on this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. If you're a Hallmark, you take Hallmark movies too seriously like I do, or maybe you don't. Maybe you just enjoy watching reviews. Just go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.